Welcome to the 93rd Annual General Meeting of the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry. My name is Kim Aikman and I'll be your MC for this evening. At this time, I'd like to ask you all to stand for the national anthem, and we'll invite Ms. Lisa Alvarez to sing, and I'm sure she'll enjoy if you sing along with her.
O land of the free by the Carib Sea, our manhood we pledge to thy liberty. No tyrants here linger, despots must flee this tranquil haven of democracy. The blood of our sires which hallows the sun brought freedom from slavery, oppressions ruled by the might of truth and the grace of God. No longer shall we be hewers of wood. Arise, ye sons of the Baymen's clan, put on your armor, clear the land, drive back the tyrants, let despots flee. Land of the free by the Carib Sea. Nature has blessed thee with well untold o'er mountains and valleys where prairies roll. Our fathers, the Baymen, valiant and bold, drove back invaders this heritage hold. From proud Rio Hondo to Old Sassoon, through Coral Isles over Blue Lagoon. Keep watch with the angels, the stars and moon, for freedom comes tomorrow's noon. Arise, ye sons of the Baymen's clan, put on your armor, clear the land, drive back the tyrants, let despots flee. Land of the free by the Carib Sea.
Thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you all. You sung lovely. I'd like to ask you all to please remain standing as we call on Reverend Ilona Smiling for the blessing.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, you are the source of all wisdom and understanding. Be present with those gathered here this evening for this annual general meeting of the Chamber of Commerce. Heavenly Father, we seek your guidance in everything that we do. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it. We thank you for the members of this organization, for their commitment. We thank you for all the employees who provide professional output, and for all the organizers of this event. We ask your blessings, Lord, on this meeting, as we continue to pray for our nation and for all our families. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to call to the podium Mr. Alan Reimer. He's the newest member of our Executive Council, and he sits on the council as the Vice President of Industry. Mr. Reimer.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me establish protocol by welcoming the Honorable Godwin Holtz, Minister of Labor, Local Government, Rural Development, NEMO, and Immigration. Mr. Mark Lizarraga, Senator representing the business sector. Welcome. Mr. Jonathan De Silva, the U.S. Embassy. Mr. Michael Singh, CEO and the Minister of Trade, Investment, Promotion, Private Sector, Development and Consumer Protection. Ms. Amparo Masson, Director, Private Public Sector Development. Mr. Yashin Dujan, Director in the Directorate of Foreign Trade. Ms. Sue Courtney, Executive Director, Belize Coalition of Service Providers. Dr. Fraser, President of UB. Ms. Jane Bennett, Head of UWI Open Campus, Belize. Past Presidents of the Chamber, Executive Council members, and all, welcome to this 93rd AGM this evening. The Belize Chamber of Commerce Industry's 93rd AGM is here. The Chamber is now past 93 years in existence. It has lived through many changing times. It has endured the Great Depression of the 1930s. It has lived through World War II. It has grown through the better years of the 50s and 60s. It has seen pre- and post-independence Belize and all the challenges this has brought with it. It is older than any of us here tonight. We have inherited it from our ancestors. We have continued to build it. Some of you might have already put in 40 or more years to build it, and some only a few, like I myself. I'm here, one of the newer ones. All with the same common goal, maintaining and building the Chamber and thereby making your own life better. The health of the Chamber is an indicator of the country's economic health. A strong and vibrant Chamber indicates a country that is moving forward. It is a place where entrepreneurs, young and old, consolidate their efforts for the common good and advancement of the country's economy. To keep the Chamber healthy, it needs constant care and improvement. It needs the input and dialogue from its membership to come up with positions on issues that from time to time arise as the country grows. It needs a keen vision of what we want to become and make such a vision our goal and establish a roadmap of how we can achieve such goal. It is only through active participation that the Chamber can become its best and serve you better. We also must see a steady inflow of young and new entrepreneurs that are willing to take up the task of management that the older generation will all too soon be willing to pass on. A country that does not see a steady growth of new entrepreneurs will sooner or later come into serious economic trouble. If too many people just want a good paying job and a comfortable living standard and not really go out and take some calculated risks, the country's progress will not be healthy. After all, for every good paying job, there must be a paying employer. Tonight on this AGM, we are giving you an update what your Chamber has done this past year. I invite you to raise your hand, ask questions where you do not follow or understand. After all, the Executive Council, management and staff are here to serve you, our members. So, sit back, listen, participate, and enjoy. Once again, a hearty welcome to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Reimer. At this time, we will be giving you a video presentation of what we did in the past year.
Just a few words that you may use to describe the economic year of 2012. However, the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry remain firmly anchored in our mission to be the leading voice of the private sector. By having the support of our Executive Council, our members, and our staff, the Chamber was able to move forward not as a segregated entity, but as a unified force operating in our environment. We stood steadfast in the path of our Triple C philosophy to capacitate, champion, and to connect. Through our MOU with the University of the West Indies, the Chamber has been successful in putting forward a series of trainings facilitated by a cadre of professionals that are relevant to you, our members. One of the most popular trainings among our members was Finance for Non-Financial Managers. This training was especially beneficial to entrepreneurs and managers who wanted to become more knowledgeable in their company's financial status in order to make informed decisions. Based on our members' request to better understand the newly Labor Amended Act 2011, the BCCI secured funds from the International Labor Organization to coordinate a seminar entitled Labor and Industrial Relations, comprehending the Belize Amended Labor Act 2011 and its financial implications on businesses. Over 50 members of BCCI and NTUCB participated in this seminar to better comprehend the recently enacted amended labor laws and its implications on both the employer and employee. Through the BCCI, two of our members, Ms. Matthew Smith and Ms. Heather Cunningham, participated in the United Nations Democracy Fund, UNDEF, project to play the role as Belize's women leaders to fellow Belizean women to advance transformational leadership for gender justice in the Caribbean. Our members were also offered the opportunity to attend the CARICOM Dominican Republic Business Forum, organized by the Caribbean Export Development Agency in the Dominican Republic, DR, of which Royal Mayan Shrimp Farms took advantage of. They were able to capacitate on the CARICOM DR agreement and how to tap into business opportunities available in the DR and the European Union. The BCCI also strived to increase the capacity of the Secretariat by participating in workshops as the Export Business Plan, the Small Business Development Center, and the Foreign Direct Investment Training, all facilitated by the Belize Trade and Investment Development Service, Beltrade. To keep up with the pace of technology, we ventured into the technological world with the assistance of SMART by facilitating a training called Tech Time, which enlightened participants on how to use their electronic devices more efficiently. We believe that in a technological-driven world, one could only benefit by increasing their knowledge of the capabilities, the proper use, and the advantages that their electronics hold. As many issues emerged in our economy, BCCI rose to the occasion to ensure the economic vitality and quality of life in Belize. Through diligent research, the BCCI authored a white paper on investments which was presented to both the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, with suggestions on how to improve Belize's macroeconomic environment. The Chamber believes that Belize's development is dependent on a collaborative partnership between the public and private sectors. The Chamber also voiced its concerns on issues as the write-off of the Social Security Board's housing loans, bond renegotiation, as the CUDA project, National Export Strategy, National Tourism Master Plan, crime, Social Security investment in BEL, Belize's procurement system, and trade license fee, to name a few. Your Chamber also continuously injected into policy formulation with input from the Labor, Crime, and Economic Sub-Councils, which reviews their respective issues affecting the growth of Belize. Thanks to all of you who volunteered your time and expertise. The BCCI saw its 92nd AGM, at which new leadership, the Executive Council of the Chamber,
was elected to serve its membership for the years 2012 to 2014. The BCCI also stood out in the Senate elections with candidate Mr. Markel Lizarraga, who was challenged by two candidates of the Belize Business Bureau to be the representative of the private sector in the Senate. Mr. Lizarraga was victorious and champions the cause of the private sector in the government. We have as well expanded our voice regionally, as the President was invited to submit several op-ed articles in regional media such as the Caribbean Journal. Our President also serves as a co-chair on the Economic Development Council, which resulted from the Prime Minister's Private Sector Forum held in 2011, as a means of formal dialogue and consultation between the two parties. This council evolved from a steering committee into the Economic Development Council, consisting of 5 private sector representatives and 5 public sector representatives. This has given the Chamber the essential opportunity to inject into the central lifeline of shaping policy to create an enabling environment for business and, by extension, a better Belize. Creating networks is another of our core mandates which the BCCI fulfills through, but is not limited to, our mixers. We have brought our members together with the GST Department, the Auditor General, the Ministry of the Public Service, DFC, and Youth Business Trust for them to dialogue with a goal of obtaining an understanding of each other's role and functions to foster a harmonious environment. The Chamber also invited Mr. David O'Donovan from the Ireland Industrial Development Agency to speak to our members on the best practices utilized in Ireland to pull them out of the depression. Of course, 2012 being an election year, it was incumbent upon the Chamber to invite the Prime Minister, Honorable Dean Barrow, and the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Francis Fonseca, to address our members and answer any questions and listen to any suggestions that they had. Both leaders heard our views. Our flagship event of that year, the Expo Belize Marketplace, was a resounding success. This was held on September 15th and 16th and had over 18,000 visitors on the grounds. For the first time, the U.S. Embassy joined in this venture to promote goods and services made in the USA. Members had the opportunity to showcase their goods and services. For the first time, the Expo boasted an ICA village where artists were able to showcase every aspect of the creative arts. The response was extraordinary. The Chamber also ventured into a new event, that is, our first ever Christmas Expo, based on the demand from our members. This was a resounding success despite the many activities happening simultaneously. Members had the opportunity to offer to the public deals and steals for the Christmas season. To say that we experienced economically challenging times in 2012 is an understatement. Our major revenue stream, Western Union, made some changes to the rate structure, effectively cutting our revenue in half. Regardless of the great challenges that the BCCI Western Union experienced, we managed to maintain customer loyalty and successfully celebrated 20 years of serving Belize through various customer recognition events and continuous promotions with the partnership of alliances. The BCCI Western Union also gave back to the community by finalizing one of the ongoing projects, the renovation of the Biscayne Primary School cafeteria on September 26, 2012. Some tough decisions had to be made in order for your chamber to survive. We had the opportunity to rent a half of the second floor for additional income. The Secretariat moved and joined the Western Union staff on the ground floor. The Chamber staff must be commended for rising to the challenge and accomplishing this move in one weekend. Resiliency and relevance are our cornerstones. Together, we will continue to move forward to keep our Chamber afloat.
Thank you all very much. The Chamber took the opportunity that we have our members gathered together to ask Mr. Yashin Dujan, the director at the Directorate of Foreign Trade, to give a short presentation on our partial scope agreements and trade agreements that we're currently negotiating. So without further ado, I would like to call Mr. Yashin Dujan.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I promise to be sorry, excuse me. I promise to be very brief this evening, as my throat is giving me a bit of trouble. Building on the existing protocol already established, I would like to start by actually thanking the Chamber for the opportunity to be here to share with you some of the activities and exercises that we've been engaged in over the past couple of months. Really and truly, we have been engaged in a very progressive trade policy over the last 7 months or 8 months or so. And it has been a collaborative effort between both private and public sector in building the achievements that we've been able to meet. This is actually a very unique time in the actual construction and the framework of our economic development here in Belize. And that is primarily because we are standing at the crossroads between the Caribbean and Central America, as we've been doing for a very long time. But I also say that we go beyond that because we also stand at the intersection between the country's social, environmental, and economic development plans. It is now unacceptable to say that things hard out here, and that is the way that we will take the brunt of the effects of the recession, the downturn, the rising fuel prices that have impacted our economy. In this current trade environment and a world of reduced quotas, new tariff boundaries that have been imposed upon us, restrictive agreements, rising fuel costs, and that's just to name a few of the issues that we're faced with, it's very important that, that the country, both private and public sector, remain vigilant in the necessary steps and measures that are needed for us to compete in the global environment. As I mentioned before, Belize has long enjoyed being a CARICOM country on the Central American mainland. We have had access to the benefits of the CSME and the EPA that's up and coming right now. We have been referred to for years as the gateway and the bridge between the two sub-regions. We've been referred to as the breadbasket of CARICOM. And really and truly, it is an opportune time now that we take advantage of all of these opportunities that lay before us. What has happened very recently is that there have been some threats that have actually threatened the geographic advantage that Belize shares in these two sub-regions. And threats through the ways of proposed agreements and partial scopes between Caribbean nations and Central America that would remove our opportunity or our trading value to be able to pose as this gateway. And with the pending CICA CARICOM free trade agreement that has been proposed and is on the table right now, basically, there is no time for us to spare in terms of securing our trading future with the Central American region and actually beyond. And so with that, I would like to just briefly launch into some of the works that we've been engaged in at the Directorate of Foreign Trade, and have you understand, for those of you who have not been working with us in the past, where it is that we're planning to go with this policy. It's viewed that Belize has enjoyed CARICOM. We have made the best of what we can do with it, and there's a lot more to be done. We're not closing any doors, but we do realize that there's an imbalance when you look at what our trading sector is, and that we need to counterbalance that. Lessons learned from the recession, which is still going on, so I won't write it off right now, have been that we need more options, we need more access to different markets, we need different opportunities. At the Directorate, we realize that using our geographic advantage is part of our short-term goal. In the long run, there are plans in place right now that I will outline that will involve Belize moving from a regional trading partner to a global trading partner. In the middle of 2012, we commenced negotiations with the Republic of El Salvador for a partial scope agreement. I'm proud to say that the first round was held in Belize and was quite successful, and we are now preparing for the second round, which is to be hosted in El Salvador shortly. We have also notified the Mexican government of our intent to prepare another partial scope agreement with the United States of Mexico. We have commenced the preparations for the first round, and we hope that by August of this year, we will have successfully concluded that first round. We have entered into talks with the government of Honduras as well to pursue a partial scope agreement with them for similar treatment. We are currently engaged in the development of a new export strategy, a new trade policy, a new investment policy for Belize that encompasses all of the new trade avenues that we choose to pursue. We're working on potential capacity to expand our trading branches out to all of Central America and not just our regional partners. We also have an extra regional trade desk that is dedicated to moving trade now beyond Central America and the Caribbean. Excuse me. I'm happy to say that as of January of this year, we've established the first trade intelligence desk dealing with the collection and assessment of data, both private and public, both foreign and domestic, that is doing the analysis for us and working with the private sector in terms of getting new access markets identified for potential investment, expansion of existing business, and for the promotion of trade in general. The addition to that also has been the growing interest for the provision of the trade and services, something which was done prior to this through the CSME and through the EPA arrangements on CARICOM. And I'm happy to say that we're now preparing to do our own rounds of negotiations for services as a sovereign entity. What this transforms into in the general economy for us really is going to be greater access markets for our import sector. We're looking for cheaper sourcing of goods for our producers. We're looking for more diverse markets for our exporters. We're looking for lowering the cost of living through the consumer base expansion programs, which means accessing Central America and CARICOM are both essential for markets for us. We look to realize increased business, increased employment, as I said, lower cost of living. I think that in Mr. Reimer's opening, he highlighted the need for entrepreneurship and more risk-taking, and that these are two highlights that we also share in common with what we're doing with this program. And I think, finally, I must state that this has not been a unilateral decision of government. This has been done with the participation and the assistance of private sector, and I must acknowledge the Chamber for their input in these exercises. And I must also stress that continued participation and input in the private-public dialogue is essential for us to be able to achieve some of these. I did promise that I would not be very long, and my throat is killing me, so do forgive me, but I will stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yashin. And now I will call on our keynote speaker. Mr. Alvin Henderson attended Whittier College, a small private liberal arts school in the United States of America, where he obtained his undergraduate degree. He's currently the managing director as well as a founding shareholder of Royal Mayan Shrimp Farms Limited, a 350-acre shrimp farm which produces 3 million pounds of shrimp yearly. He developed and successfully introduced 2 new brands of shrimp products originating from Belize and destined for the United States of America, Mexico, the Caribbean, as well as several countries in Europe. Mr. Henderson has been involved in several large agricultural projects in Belize, particularly in the banana and citrus industries. In the citrus industry of Belize, he was the Assistant Chief Executive Officer of the then Citrus Company of Belize Limited for 2 years and played an integral role in the eventual sale of the company to another investment group. As in the case of Belize's banana industry, the citrus industry is a significant hard currency earner for the country of Belize. From 1995 to 1997, Alvin Henderson worked as the general manager of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry. While working with the Ministries of Foreign Affairs and Economic Development between the years 1993 to 95, Mr. Henderson worked with the National Economic Advisory Task Force. This unit helped to introduce a number of new pieces of legislation designed to create employment. Under this initiative, the Commercial Free Zone legislation was crafted and introduced, as well as significant amendments to the Export Processing Zone legislation and Belize's Fiscal Incentive Program. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Mr. Henderson to the podium.
Thank you very much. Pleasant evening, everybody. The formalities were done by Alan earlier, so forgive me. I don't want to be offensive to protocol. I won't even attempt to recall all the names and all that good stuff. So thank you very much for inviting me here tonight. You know, I want to preamble my comments by offering this thought. I got a call from Miss Ruth. Miss Ruth called me and asked me to submit my speech that I intended to present tonight in writing to her. Then it occurred to me that the reason why she was requesting this submission of the speech is because she wanted to ensure that I would not say anything libelous or scandalous tonight. I instantly assured her that there would be nothing libelous, but I gave no assurance about anything scandalous. I want to first of all thank the Executive Council of the Police Chamber of Commerce and Industry for inviting me to speak tonight. This institution always has had a very special place in my heart. When I served as general manager between the years 1995 to 1997, I made many friends, people that even today are consummate colleagues. I come from a very competitive industry, one that has had to face off with China and Thailand in the global marketplace from its very genesis. Of all the options I had in agriculture, I chose what turned out to be one of the most competitive, export-oriented investments in the productive sector, the shrimp industry. In the not too distant past, Belize had 16 shrimp farms operating. Today, there are 7. I have seen people better financed and certainly much brighter than I fail in this business. At the height of shrimp production in Belize in 2006, the farms produced 22 million pounds with a total value of exports of 90 million Belize. Today, 7 farms are forecasted to produce this year what 16 farms did many years ago. Export earnings in the shrimp industry are forecasted to almost double this year, from 42 million Belize in 2012 to near 80 million Belize in 2013. There are many important lessons to be drawn from our industry's history of precipitous decline and phoenix bird-like recovery. For one to survive in the export trade, you have to be agile. Beyond having a high-quality product destined for clearly defined niche markets, exporters must have access to timely, accurate, and relevant market information. As small as we are, there are many wonderful opportunities for a country like Belize. We are blessed with the human capital and increasingly scarce natural resource called land. Agriculture generally holds a great promise for increasing contribution to GDP growth in Belize. But to take advantage of the emerging opportunity, we will need to take decisive action in both the public and private sectors. Part of our Herculean effort is how to define Belize's competitive space in this global marketplace. We live in a rapidly changing world. There are 7 billion of us living today on planet Earth. By the year 2050, the number is expected to burgeon to 9 billion. Consider 9 billion people, increasingly wealthy at that, demanding perhaps double what we consume now, all on a finite planet. There's also an increasing concentration of wealth in Southeast Asia. Of the top 10 countries with the highest level of foreign exchange and reserves in the world, 6 of them are Asian economies. The United States of America can justifiably boast of generating 25% of the world's wealth, but at $3.4 trillion in foreign exchange reserves, China's war chest in international trade stands unrivaled. Each year, 15 million people move into urban areas in China. Each year, 20 million Chinese move up into the middle class. China's increasing wealth has material implications for all of us, no matter how far removed geographically we may think we are from Asia. I participated recently in a sustainability sourcing conference at the World Wildlife Fund's headquarters in Washington, D.C. Dr. Jason Clay from the World Wildlife Fund made a profound observation to the many distinguished guests that participated in the sustainable sourcing workshop. Present were companies like Coca-Cola, ADM, and Cargill, conglomerates in the use and production of commodities around the world. Dr. Clay made the point that with a foreign reserve of 3.4 trillion US and an absolute willingness to use sovereign wealth to protect its strategic interests, any of the large multinational could be bought up by China. The dramatic economic growth that Southeast Asia is experiencing generally, China particularly, continues to drive up commodity prices across the world. We're a small country and a small producer. This is true no matter the product. Belize has maybe 3,000 acres of shrimp currently under production. This could be compared to regional powerhouses such as Mexico, with say 148,000 acres in production, and Ecuador with 395,000 acres. On the world stage, you have to also deal with even larger producers, Thailands of the world, Vietnam and India. How does Belize compete globally in agriculture? How do we survive among the giants? The short answer, we have to use well-developed market intelligence to position a high-quality product into niche markets around the world. Everybody heard me? This is how we overcome the fundamental challenge of the absence of economies of scale. Firstly, we need to create and maintain a trade-enabling infrastructure to facilitate diversified market strategy for our exports. There are many actors in this process. We need the trade negotiators. We need the trade negotiators to identify potential trading partners and consummate those agreements. We need the trade enablers, institutions such as Belize Agricultural Health Authority, that can ensure that we comply with sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. And then we also need the trade facilitators, such as Beltrade locally, Caribbean Export regionally, institutions that bring buyers and sellers together. A diversified market strategy is a sine qua non. You simply cannot depend on one market. Last year, we had a contract with a European buyer. Midway on product delivery, they decided to reduce the price. Within 2 weeks, we had the product moved to the US market. We have open markets in Spain, Italy, France, Jamaica, Trinidad, Mexico, the US, and last year, Canada. We have to lobby and encourage our trade negotiators to press on and open new markets for us. Last year, I attended a trade show in Taiwan. I saw the client specifications, and for us, there was no real hurdle to cross. We have operated in markets sophisticated as France, where the specifications are much more stringent compared to what I saw in Taiwan. We could have easily penetrated this market, except for a singular hurdle. Belize, unlike most of the other Central American countries, does not have a trade agreement with Taiwan. Our exports would therefore be subjected to a 20% duty, making the trade impossible. I came back and lobbied with the CEO of Agriculture, the CEO of Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and my good friend Michael Singh here. I understand that an agreement with Taiwan is now being pursued. If it were not for Baja, Belize's shrimp industry would not have had any presence whatsoever in the European market. We first began exporting to Europe in the year 2006. This came out of an initiative led by the late Dr. Michael DeShield. Dr. DeShield did a great service, not only to his country, but also to our industry. For this, we will ever be grateful in the shrimp industry. The Mexican market, where Belize has a significant market presence, would also not be possible were it not for animal health and food safety surveillance programs that our industry has with Baja. Each year, our little company alone spends near to $40,000 Belize dollars on our compliance program with Baja. I'm not complaining about the cost. To me, it is money well spent to preserve the unfettered access to the markets we have already penetrated. But secondly, Belize's export strategy should focus on agricultural products where we enjoy an obvious comparative and competitive advantage. I recently read a report which offered this thought on agriculture in the Caribbean, and I quote, "The large agricultural resources of some countries, example Guyana and Belize, could be used to ensure food self-sufficiency in the region and develop new large-scale exports." The report continues, moreover, the success of exporting firms will create a demand which should see the growth of small firms supplying ancillary goods and services to the export sector. A small, vibrant, small enterprise sector supporting the traded sector should serve to mop up on the remaining unemployment. The report, from which I quote, was written in 1992. It is a report from the then West Indian Commission chaired by Sir Sridhar Ramphal entitled Time for Action. Why has it taken us 21 years to connect the dots? We have a decisive advantage in the area of agriculture in the Caribbean. We have access to agricultural lands that simply do not exist in most of the Caribbean. Now more than ever, CARICOM needs us. I would go further. They need us particularly to help keep their inflation problems in check. Light red kidney beans, black eye beans, corn, cornmeal, citrus juices, pineapple juices, fish, shrimp. These products are all being sourced currently out of Belize. Belize's export trade with CARICOM has almost doubled over the last 2 years, from a value of 34.6 million Belize in 2010 to 69.3 million Belize in 2012. Trading directly with the CARICOM market makes the market more efficient, delivering better value to the end users of our products across the region. About a month ago, I visited Trinidad and Tobago, where we have a significant market presence. We move about 800,000 pounds a year into Trinidad. I met a potential buyer who complained to me that Belize had driven down the price of shrimp in the marketplace. I was absolutely amused. This was precisely my objective. Until 2 years ago, most of the shrimp being consumed in the Caribbean came out of the United States, a country that imports, listen to this, 80% of the shrimp it consumes. Evidently, there were middlemen in the trade who were buying from all over the world, marking up the product and selling it to the Caribbean. CARICOM needs us. But we also have to zero in on our competitive advantage. Now, this is a little more complex, and it takes time to uncover. It also changes from industry to industry and product to product. Recently, at a meeting in Barbados, I was asked how Belize competes against the largest regional producer, exporter, Ecuador. We operate in the same space with Ecuador when it comes to what is for our company a signature product, a head-on, shell-on offering. The short answer is that we focus on a consistently high-quality product destined for niche markets that we have been able to uncover over the last 3 years. Thirdly, we have to aid our local companies in better understanding their export models so that they can effectively compete on the world stage. Many years ago, I read this book that left an indelible impression on my life. In fact, it has helped me to crystallize a lot of our strategy at Royal Mine. In this book, Jim Collins refers to a principle called the hedgehog concept. Essentially, the concept speaks directly to two fundamental questions. What is your company best at in the space in which you operate? And also, what single economic unit determines your profitability? At Royal Mine, we are best at producing a high-quality head-on, shell-on product destined for ethnic markets around the world. And the single economic unit that determines our profitability is profit per pound of shrimp at the farm gate. Understanding these two basic concepts has made analyzing market opportunities really a rudimentary exercise. We stay away from products that we are not good at. Just recently, a buyer from Barbados asked me about a cooked product that he needed. I immediately told him to source the product from Asia. We simply cannot compete in that space. We're going further. We're upping the ante. Belize has a wonderful story and an excellent branding opportunity that we're not capitalizing on. I've been in the citrus industry, the banana industry, and the shrimp industry. The story is always the same. We have a reputation for a very high quality product compared to any other country in the world, or many other countries in the world. Belize also has a wonderful legacy of social and environmental responsibility. Think of it. We have about 1/3 of our country under conservation. We are the only country in the world that has made trawling illegal. We're not telling the story well enough. We're not telling our story well enough. Our shrimp industry is currently involved in what is called a cluster initiative, sponsored under the Compete Caribbean program, which is funded by the Inter-American Development Bank. The goal is to secure third-party certification of our farms in the areas of social and environmental responsibility. The World Wildlife Fund, the Inter-American Development Bank, the Summit Foundation, and our association are all partners in this initiative. Listen to me carefully. Belize will be the first country in the world where up to 85%, if not 100%, of its shrimp production would be certified under an aquaculture standard endorsed by the World Wildlife Fund. This is an opportunity for good branding. I cannot end this presentation without dealing with the often delicate subject of financing in the productive sector. To start with, what we oftentimes refer to as concessionary lending rates to the productive sector is really par for the course in many of the countries that those of us in the productive sector have to compete with. I'm more convinced now than I have ever been in the past that we need to change the lenses through which we view the productive sector. Productive sector lending really should be the domain of a development type bank that specializes in managing an agriculture or broader productive sector portfolio. Forgive me, but our commercial banks are not designed to deal with agricultural risk. How do you deal with the vagaries of the market? Prices can and do change. And in the case of some of our products, there are dramatic pendulum swings. How do you deal with delayed production because of changing weather patterns? Remember, the old Barclays Bank used to have a unit that specialized in agriculture risk. They had an expert who would visit the citrus farms every year. I was in citrus at the time, to better understand what was happening in the ground. I doubt very much that this unit still exists at the successor bank to Barclays, CIBC, First Caribbean International Bank. Let me offer this thought. If we want to grow the export base, our export base, we'll need to wrestle and defeat the lion that is agriculture financing. Belize has a wonderful opportunity now in the agriculture sector to expand its export base, increase hard currency earnings, and create meaningful employment for its people. The timing could not be more opportune. A rapidly growing and increasingly wealthy global population needs the very products, some of the very products, that we have the land base and the know-how to produce in Belize. What other dots do we need to connect? Let's get the show on the road. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alvin, for your thought-provoking speech. So now we have a challenge. Let's get the show on the road. At this time, I'd like to open the business session of this year's AGM. You would have each gotten a copy of our financial statement and minutes, and we would like to review the minutes. It's on page 1 through to page 7. And if there are any corrections, please let me know, and I'll go through it page by page. Page 1. Okay, page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Okay, now if there are no corrections to the minutes, can I have somebody move that they be passed? And a second, Ms. Diaz, can I have somebody second it, please? Mr. Vasquez, thank you very much. Okay, at this time, I would like to call on the president, Ms. Kay Menzies, to give her report.
Good evening, everyone. Few people have mentioned to me about the brightness of the decor and the native approach. The CEO is whispering behind me, and I'm choosing to ignore her because I think somewhere deep in the decorating plans, the team felt that this must represent the future of Belize. Am I right? No. Not that bright? Let us hope. Anyway, good evening, everyone that Alan has so clearly and carefully mentioned. If anyone was missed, I will not attempt to find. I think he did a fairly thorough job there, so I'll just go ahead. It seems to me that amongst the discussions we all have from day to day, and believe me, at the Chamber, we have a lot of discussions every day. We may disagree on a lot of things, but we all agree on two basic things. We all want to see our country progress, and we all want to prosper to some degree or other. We want to have a good quality of life. To put it another way, none of the people I speak to openly declare that a declining, poorer, backwardly progressive Belize would be the answer to all their problems. And no one has yet told me that not being able to feed and clothe their kids, or at least themselves, is a perfectly satisfactory life's goal. So I think we agree on those two things, am I right? Doesn't matter what we do for a living in order to answer that. We all tend to agree we want a better life and we want a better country, always. How do we make them happen? How do we have our country progress and generally prosper from that progress? First of all, I submit to you that if these two conditions are to occur in a sustainable, lasting, universal manner, that we must agree that they are not mutually exclusive. We cannot prosper at our country's expense and expect our quality of life to improve. For example, cutting rosewood illegally, giving national land to a few cronies, or any of the other such activities that we've heard of throughout the years since independence are not just shameful. They put what should be national wealth in just a few pockets, leaving the rest of the country poorer and angrier. Similarly, running contraband goods, evading taxes, and other such acts of corruption impair the ability of any well-intentioned government to carry out its mandate, resulting in the inevitable reduction of personal security and declining infrastructure, which we complain about daily, except in Belize City, we complain differently now. That cannot be labeled as progress, not the kind of progress we want. Therefore, a solution for progress leading to general prosperity has to be found. Of course, there are no quick fixes for lasting success. As with any solid construction, a foundation has to be laid and then built upon. I submit to you that one key part of that foundation is a strong public-private partnership, wherein we all work together from our various points of view with one goal in mind: building Belize. If we can get together, pool our skills and our strengths, imagine what we can accomplish. Speaking in general terms, the public sector, comprising of our elected leaders and the technocrats in their ministries, can and must create an enabling environment through legislation, and sometimes through less legislation. The red tape is there, and there is where it must be cut. On the private sector side, we must take full advantage of that enabling environment, create new ventures, develop new ideas, go outside of our comfort level, as alluded to by our guest speaker. Good enough is no longer good enough in today's world. And the companies who succeed and thrive will be the ones that recognize that fact. Those of you who produce, let the Belizean pride go beyond our borders. Those of you who provide services, take advantage of new technology as it becomes available and of open access as it occurs. If you are in business, grab the opportunities that arise, hold them to the light and examine them from every angle. You may just find something there for you. And we can and should all help and counsel each other to assure mutual success. We spend a lot of time and energy blaming each other, public and private sectors, for the problems that exist today. I submit to you that we will progress a lot more quickly if we, having accepted what the problems are, divert that energy we use for blaming into finding and applying the fixes, together. To that end, the work now in progress includes, but isn't limited to, negotiating partial scope agreements with other countries so that we can trade with them. It includes the efforts of the Economic Development Council to identify and advise the government of Belize about ways in which the enabling environment can be created with maximum effect. It involves the work of the Director, Public-Private Sector Dialogue, who is with us tonight, who has the often thankless task of being caught between the two sides and trying to resolve differences when some mutual understanding of overall goals and perhaps a slight policy or operational shift could have avoided those differences in the first place. Am I right, Mrs. Masson? The work involves even more than that. And to those members who have jumped in with both feet when asked for help in the considerable efforts of the Chamber, I must take a moment to say a simple thank you. Now, as you have seen, partners disagree, partners question, and partners argue. In this partnership for development that we must build, all of the above will happen, and probably more often than any of us want to admit. But, and here's the key, good partners recognize that they are dependent on one another, and that knowledge helps them to find the necessary resolution. It also causes them to challenge each other to excel, for the success of one ensures the success of the other. Therefore, in my final year as president, and on behalf of your Executive Council and with the permission of our members, I'll commit to the public sector members present in the room that we will continue to be good partners with all the arguments that entails. And with the full knowledge that we need each other, both of us, to bring the necessary progress and desired prosperity to this country of ours. On that note, I wish to commend to you the Executive Council and the management and staff of the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry. All please stand and be recognized. There's a couple shy folks in the back. Miss Karen, Miss Dunnett, ladies. This is your team as members. And it is our pleasure to serve and work with you. Thank you for your faith and your overwhelming support, and do enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I call on the Treasurer, Mrs. Claudette Elters, to give the financial report.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Let me just get my... We would like to thank Panel Care Foster for preparing our audited financials for the year 2012. They have prepared financial statements according to international financial reporting standards for small and medium-sized entities. Despite the slow but steady economic growth that most businesses are experiencing, the Chamber was able to grow its membership through direct member drives. Western Union, which represents our main revenue generator, has not been so fortunate. We have been experiencing competition, and in November, cutbacks from our Western Union International head office, which directly affected our profits from this source. September Expo 2012 proved to be a success as expected. The introduction of our Christmas Expo helped to offset some of the decreases we experience in other areas. Conferencing facility experienced minimal growth, and other facilities competed with us, we were still able to maintain a solid booking throughout the year. Rental income generated from leasing our first floor helped tremendously in bridging the shortfalls in revenue. Another area that contributed to overall improvement in performance was the reduction in administrative expenses. Management's decision to redirect responsibilities contributed to this savings. Altogether, these strategies have afforded us to realize a profit for 2012. If I can just highlight right there. As the graph further demonstrates, 2012 was a good year despite the challenges. This feat would not have been possible without the hard work, dedication, and creative thinking of our CEO and her supportive staff. They have worked diligently and without reservations to attain realistic performances of our chamber. I cannot emphasize how proud we are to acknowledge their efforts. As expected, 71% of our general and administrative expenses are attributed to administration of the office operations of BCCI. This year's expenses decreased by a 5% margin. This is mainly due to management's decision to redistribute 2 of our permanent positions among the existing staff members. The efforts to brand our chamber and Western Union agents have been ongoing. We are constantly seeking new sub-agents to grow our Western Union network so we can remain the #1 money transfer agent. The staff remains dedicated and committed to maintaining our CCC philosophy. While Western Union still represents the majority of our revenues, we are cautiously noting the decrease in this area of revenue. The decision by Western Union International to further cut into our profit margin was unforeseen and detrimental to our projected profits. This move was in an effort to compete with other money transfer institutions. Conference facilities and dues remained on track. These growths were as expected. Expo revenues grew by 2%, and this was attributed to the increase in attendance and participation at our annual expo in September. Also, we added the Christmas Expo for the first time, and as reported earlier, the performance was above expectation. We plan to continue these expos as we see the potential for greater participation. We went into a lease agreement with Atlantic International Bank Limited. This new source of income represented 9% of total revenue. This has contributed significantly to our overall profitability. We believe that our Coney Drive location is ideal for the newly classified business area. The Chamber has been able to sustain a viable entity due to management's financial decisions to optimize the use of our assets. Although we operate on an overdraft to assist our daily financial transactions, our receivables are managed more stringently and other payables have shrunk due to more efficient management methods. We've managed to negotiate for a decrease in our overdraft rate of 11.5% to now 10%, and our interest rate on our loan was renegotiated from 11.5% to 9.5%. The balance sheet reflects the health of our organization and shows the viability of our business going forward. Our financial position has shown our commitment to maintain stability for the future. It reflects the dedication of the Secretariat to properly manage finances to meet its obligations. The liquidity position of the Chamber has improved over the past year. This is a direct result of strategic decisions to strengthen our finances. We have consciously made decreases in administrative expense, such as security, travel, professional fees, to name a few. We plan to continue finding new ways of generating income and improving our operational existence for the foreseeable future. The Chamber continues to embrace the dynamic changes of our economic environment. Our CCC philosophy to capacitate, connect, and champion private sector causes remains the pivotal role of our mission. Your participation and our dedication are essential for us to continue to be the leading voice of the business sector. We thank you for your continued support. Do we have any questions? Going once? Going twice? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yes, we need someone to accept our financials. If we can have someone to accept the financials for 2012. Mr. Musa, thank you. And someone to second. Financials 2012, anyone? Second? Thank you, Ms. Mala. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Treasurer. At this time, I'd like to ask if there are any resolutions. Taking from the Treasurer, going once, going twice. Okay. Also, I'd like to ask for the appointment or the reappointment of our auditors, PKF, for the year 2013. Can I have somebody? Mr. Lecky and Mr. Vasquez, Ernesto, not Arturo. All right, thank you. That brings me to the closing of the business session. Every year, the Secretariat chooses an Executive Council member that we find to be the most available to us and willing and help us in whatever we need to do. We vote among the managers. And this year, we chose Mrs. Ashanti Martin. Unfortunately, she's not here due to her other job, because we like to take them as if they're employed by the Chamber. The Executive Council does all this on a voluntary basis, and we try to vote for somebody who has given a lot of their time. She's away in Trinidad, but she told me she will send somebody to collect her award if she wins. She doesn't know yet that she has won. So I would like to ask Ms. Ariane Romero from Courtney Cowie to accept the award on her behalf. You want a picture? Thank you very much. All right, at this time, I'd like to call our counselor, Mr. Daniel Gutierrez, to give the thank you.
Thank you, CEO. I will be brief because people are looking forward to the refreshments. But perhaps there is no more appropriate way of saying thank you than to remind us of what our colleague Alan said earlier, and that is that this organization, the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, has been through so many bumpy roads in the past. And as is perhaps being foretold by President Menzies, there may be bumps in the future. But throughout all of this, we have only been able to pull that off historically, and we will only be able to pull it off in the future because of you and your support. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of this family that is the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, on behalf of the management and staff, on behalf of the many thousands of Belizeans that deserve and increasingly demand a balanced voice and focused voice in a national dialogue, I say thank you. Thank you for supporting us as we support you. Now please, we invite you to some refreshment. Oh. The refreshments were not the most important part, I'm now being advised. We have some prizes.
Well, we asked everyone who had a business card when they came to put their business card in here. And if you have a business card, you still have time to bring it up. I give you a minute. And if you could have a volunteer.
Business card, don't be shy. Come on. Go. Couple in the back there. No? This side? Right?
Can we get a volunteer? Or I can cheat and take out my card. So the first winner here is from Newcomer, Camelia Salazar Hunt.
All right.
Central Cable Vision, Ms. Kimberly de Zaraga. One more. From Santos Diaz and Sons, Mr. Ricardo Diaz. Thank you.
Can the president join us?
Keeping with the theme.
To our guest speaker this evening, who has been nothing but inspiring. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alvin Henderson. Ladies and gentlemen, to the Directorate of Foreign Trade, Mr. Yashin Dujan. Yashin, thank you so very much for joining us tonight. And I am being advised that we always harass dear Reverend Smiling. So Reverend, thank you. Thank you for always coming to our aid. Some of us may need more than one blessing, but thank you anyway. I am being told that the blue ticket that we all got when we came in entitles us to one drink. So, without further ado, and again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for honoring us with your presence. We hope you enjoyed the evening, and now please join us for something to eat and drink.